LIEnette and Crook are headed back to court, not just in Ohio, not just in Florida, in the federal and the county, but also in family court. John Crook and LIEnette Preston. There's got to be a better last name than Preston. Press on, President, I'm going to have to work on that one. You could maybe help me with that a little bit. LIEnette something. In court, so we have how many court cases right now? They were in Ohio court for contempt of court. They've been found guilty for contempt of court. Now they're going back. As a matter of fact, we have filed, they will be served here soon, and we are asking the courts to mandate they must be there in person. They have to show. And if they don't show, then there can be a warrant for their arrest. Now, there are those who are going to say that Florida won't extradite them to Ohio. That's fine. I pay a bodyguard. It will happen one way or another. Wait, not a bodyguard. No. That's a whole nother thing I have to do when I'm around LIEnette and Crook. I pay a body hunter. Oh, yes, hunter. Hopefully they're allowed to have their Second Amendment rights because I'm not. So there are a lot of different questions around the federal case. What's happening there? Well, depositions are going to be happening here within the next month. Crook and LIEnette will have multiple days in Gainesville in the federal court. It will not be via Zoom, even though it will all be recorded. And others will be deposed and mandated as well, or they will be in contempt of court. Russell Meeks Sr., Marla Hughes, and others, just to name a few. Amanda Martin, her son, Rat Cunningham. And I could go on and on. It's going to be a lot of depositions. It's going to be a lot of video footage. And no doubt it's going to be very, very funny. And at the same time, these are serious issues because they've tried to extort me. They've tried to defame me. Well, they didn't try. They did. These are the things that have happened. But that's not the only thing that's happening right now. The adoption records are being unsealed. It's being challenged within the family courts. I mean, these two have gotten themselves into so much trouble. Even when I was just at Otter Creek, they had the cops over there because they were fighting with none other than the Hudson sisters. Yeah, the sweet heritage of the Hudson sisters, and LIEnette and Crook are constantly messing with the residents of Otter Creek. And I know many people have questions. For example, right here, Jan Mitchell, or it might be Jan Michelle. It might be Jan Michael. I don't know. It's Jan. I know it's Jan. Okay. Jan says this. I have a question about the state of Florida. If someone is delinquent on their property tax, can someone else pay the taxes and become the new property owner? I know in Washington State, where I grew up, you can. I also know in Tennessee, where I lived there in the last 25 years, you can too. So if you can, why doesn't somebody just go and pay the taxes and then kick LIEnette and evict her off of the property? So Jan asked a very good question. She's asking a question what's called tax liens. And there are plenty of people who invest in tax lien properties. What that means is they have not paid their taxes, their real estate taxes on that property. Government then takes and seizes that property and it goes up for auction. So in every state, the laws are a little bit different. Now, I have my hands in this. As a matter of fact, Christian and Patience live in a home that I bought at tax lien. It's called sheriff sale as well. There's a little bit difference with the sheriff sale, but at any rate, can you purchase the taxes or pay the taxes and become an owner with a tax lien sale in Florida? And the answer is yes, that can happen. Now, there are different variations of things that happen along the way and the timeline, but the reality is you can pay back taxes and then you can own that piece of property. Now, the follow-up question is, Jeremy, did you pay the taxes? No. I brought the spotlight to the unpaid taxes because I wanted the taxes paid, because when the federal government seizes the property, I don't want any other issues because taxes weren't paid. In other words, checkmate with Crook and LIEnette. Tony Hyde wants to know, Jeremy, can you actually put a lien on LIEnette and Crook's property? Well, Tony, you could put a lien on people's property if you've done work for them and they didn't pay. If you have proof of non-payment. And what that lien basically means is if they ever go and sell that property, a portion of that sale has to be given to you. They can't sell without money going towards you. So there's no legal way I can put a lien on their property, which frankly, I don't want to. Why would I want an extra legal issue? I want the federal government to take care of all of this with sanctions and settlement within the federal court system where it's free and clear, where taxes are paid, everything is paid. Now, you're going, are taxes paid? Did they actually pay their back taxes? Well, somebody did, but is it Crook or LIEnette? Well, remember, she's getting more donations than she's ever gotten in all of her life. With all the previous years combined, she's getting more donations now. And yet she's telling Judge Craig DeThomas, I've destroyed her life. I've destroyed her turtle rescue. I've destroyed this beautiful story of adoption. And yet she loves it. And she loves it because she's getting more funding, more gifts in kind. That means material gifts. A gift in kind, if you ever hear that with fundraising, this is a gift in kind. It's a material gift. It's not cash. It's a material thing, a tangible thing that you can put in your hand. And so she's receiving more this past year than she's ever received in her whole entire life, all combined. And yes, I can prove it based on records. So I don't want to put a lien on her property because I don't want additional encumbrances on that. What I want is to go into federal court. And here's the funny thing. The funny thing is there are those out there that would go, it's Florida. You can't take property in Florida. Yeah, federal courts can and will seize property, and it will go up for auction. You want to guess who the highest bidder is going to be? Because all of the funds are going to go to me anyway. Kay Cole wants to know, with all this craziness that Judge Craig DeThomas has done to you, in other words, I don't have my rights, my legal rights. I am illegally being held from driving and accessing all of my 70 plus acres. If you add all the acreage together, it's roughly 75 acres in Florida. And KC Cole says, if you can't drive on Otter Creek Road, can you ride in the vehicle George drives? You're not driving, or do you still have to go around? So, KC Cole, the reality is this. The judge says that I cannot be on the road. I can only be on my property. So here's the thing we have to ask. My property has frontage, and then there's Brian and Tina with frontage. Remember, Brian's the one that actually carved the finger. Tina is one of the 7 kids that sold the property to me because none of the kids could purchase the other kids out with the property. It was held in the family trust. And so they have a piece of property, I have 1 acre, and then my property goes all around it. So it's my property, Brian and Tina, and then my property, my property, my property, right? So am I allowed on Brian and Tina's property? Now, you could go, hey, that's, I've heard this so many times in regards to people not parking on my property off the side of the road and them going, that's government property. Well, we already know in Otter Creek it is not government-owned property. We also know, based on the money that was gifted, that they could spend it on a community center or they could put in community sidewalks. They would have to purchase all of that property from the residents, including me. My stakes, my pins go all the way to the road. My property markers are all the way to the road. I own all the way to the road. Now, if you go, well, the government has a right-of-way on it. Okay, that's the government. That's not random Joe Schmo or Jingleheimer Schmidt who can just do whatever they want on that area off of the side. They can't just park there because they want to park there because they go, the government has a right-of-way. Last I checked, their name isn't the government, okay? But the real question is, can I actually get to all of my aspects of the property without walking on the road? So if I walk on Brian and Tina's property, and if it's the government has some kind of, they can, which you already know, the government has no legal access to it. They may have some type of right-of-way for utilities and things along those lines. We've got Wi-Fi is going in and things along those lines. But other than that, they can't just seize the property, and Otter Creek would have to buy the property to put the sidewalks in. Can I still walk from my property across Brian and Tina's property 1 inch off the road back to my property and be right in front of their turtle purgatory? And I would say that most likely, once I step off of my property onto Brian and Tina's property, which all of my property is under 500 feet away from their actual pinpoints in their property, that I would be in violation unless I go around the property and walk. But even then, I can't even do all of that because it's not clear passage. So the question is, can George drive and I ride? Well, if I can't walk, if I literally can't even walk to my property, because if we're gonna focus on the judge said, Jeremy, you can't drive on North Otter Creek, and we go, okay, well, let's see if there's a loophole. Can Jeremy walk? Well, the answer is no, unless I'm on my property. Can Jeremy bike? The answer's no, unless I'm on my property. Can Jeremy get an electric scooter? I got one. And the answer is no, I can't do it. Now, it's not because what the judge has done is legal. He's illegally keeping me from my road. A judge cannot legally keep you off of a public road. And yet he has placed this in the temporary injunction. So what he's done is illegal and is being challenged in the court. Now, I'm respecting what he's done, even though I have no respect for him whatsoever. I have no desire to go spend any time in jail again, right? Oh, wait, some of you right now are going, Jeremy, you been in jail? For me to know and you to find out. Wait, that was Don McConn's line. Okay. Thank you. I thought it was a good joke too. I was just throwing it out there as a joke, and the peacocks laughed, so that's good. So I'm not going to jeopardize my own freedom to try and find loopholes or to, skirt around what the judge has done illegally to me. I will challenge it legally in the court system, which is what I'm doing. So already in the appellate courts have already stated with 99.99999% that they are going to remove Judge Craig DeThomas's. Now, I know you're going to go, well, then does that mean your temporary injunction is removed? It all has to be fought in court. So what if I go right now before it's fought with another judge and before it's taken away and I walk on the road? I could be arrested. I could go to jail. And I'm one of those individuals that goes, you know what? There are some things that are worth going to jail for, but LIEnette and Crook aren't those things that are ever going to be worth it. Lewis, I think it was 777, God's chosen number right here. Lewis says, why would you offer her money, meaning LIEnette, if she's the one harassing you? It's like saying, can I please give you money to leave me alone? That's ridiculous. So Lewis is responding and asking the question based on LIEnette stating that my lawyer bribed her, right? So she's harassing me, defaming me. She's done all these things to me and to those who are in my sphere of influence. And then she wants to go and say, oh, his lawyer is bribing me. And to try and claim that I'm going to pay her money. Now, she's begged me for money. She's begged and begged and begged. Now, there's different types of begging, okay? So I want to be very clear. There's very much so different types of begging. So there's begging of, can I please have $10,000? Can I please, I need it. I have to have it. I have to have it. There's that kind of begging, right? There's also backdoor manipulation of begging. When you first meet LIEnette and she tells you, I hate John, he's abusing me. I can't even pay to feed myself or the animals. Do you have any idea how many times I heard she doesn't have enough money to feed herself, let alone the animals? Over and over and over again. You understand that's manipulation in begging, okay? She's being manipulative. And by the way, she's posting now that, oh, we have plenty of food to take care of the animals, but if you really want to help, here's my links so you can buy pellets for them. That's funny because before it was, I can't even feed myself or the baby, let alone the animals. That's how her begging was before. And now her begging is, I have plenty of food. And why did her begging change? Her begging changed because organizations were contacted and called and complained about. If she can't take care of the child, why does she have a child if she can't feed them? She was using that as begging. If she can't take care of the animals, why are they on the property? She was using that as part of her begging. But now she's had to change all of that because the organizations have been involved. And now it's, we have plenty of food. But if you really want to help, okay, so is it they don't have food? They do have food. She's begged everybody, publicly posted, give me $65,000 and I will buy John out right now, right? We've all seen it. I've shown it. It'll be shown in court. It's another form of begging. I want it right now. It's not the manipulative type of, hey, I can't feed myself. It's the straight up in your face, give me $65,000 and Crook is out of here. We all know if anyone gave her $65,000, Crook would still be there to this day. Literally to this day, in the middle of the road, yelling at her, suck my quack, those types of things, which she was found guilty for in court. So why would she say that I was going to give her money to leave me alone? She's mentally unhinged. None of it makes sense. Literally, if you sit down and you actually think about it, you go, she's going to claim in court that Jeremy offered her money to make this all go away. But to this point, Jeremy wouldn't give her a single penny, which is why she was so mad, which is why she was defaming me, and continues, which is why she put signs up all over Otter Creek, which is why she posted such vile things, which is why Crook posted such vile things, which then she tells the judge she's not responsible for Crook. But then she tells the judge, I'm responsible for literally the planet, what they say and what they post. T.G. Sharp. It's a music note. I was just told that's a music note. Okay, T.G. Sharp. New music note coming. I might even write a song about T.G. Sharp. So if and when they take the temporary injunction off of you, does it mean it will be expunged from your record? All right, so T.G. Sharp. First of all, if and when, let's go back. It's temporary, right? Temporary means an ending date. By definition, temporary means an ending date. And right now, 5 months, coming up on 6 months, might even be 7 months. I don't even know how many months. Trust me, it's lots of months. Months upon months upon months. It's been the best months. All right, my impersonations are not that great. But the reality is the months and months of this temporary have no end date in sight, which means it's a permanent. But legally, it's a temporary. But by definition, it's a permanent because there is no end. Now, will it be lifted? And will that mean it's expunged from my record? To my knowledge, I wouldn't think it's on my record. I don't know if you can have a temporary injunction show up on your permanent record. That I'm not sure of. Now, there's a lot of things that I share legally on the channel, and I don't share it out of guessing, and I don't share it out of trying to be a Google lawyer. I share it because it's information that has been shared with me by experts that I pay for that information. And this is not one that I've actually asked or have an answer for. So I don't know that it's actually on your record when it's a temporary. I would think it would be on your record when it's a permanent. Again, don't know 100% for sure. And expunged, I'm pretty sure expunged doesn't mean it's wiped away. I think legally expunged means it's sealed and nobody can see it, okay? I'm almost positive that's what that means. That if it's expunged, it means it's sealed up, it's confidential, and nobody can say it's against you. It's still on your record, but it's sealed on your record, and nobody can hold it against you. And so it still exists, but it's secretly or hiddenly or confidentially on your record. So I don't think it will ever be expunged. I think basically what will happen, this is my prediction. And so we'll look into the future, and months down the road, you'll know whether I was right or wrong, right? Here's basically what I think will happen. Judge Craig DeThomas absolutely will be recused. He will be removed from this hearing. There is no doubt, with any doubt whatsoever, to any reasonable person who has seen the way this man acts in the courtroom, that he is wrong. Horrifically wrong. And so the higher courts are going to pull him from that case. Now, he's going to have other ramifications and consequences because of that. And then, for me, the case is then going to be set for another judge. Now, I'm going to hope that another judge has enough common sense to go, this is the most ridiculous thing in the world. LIEnette is literally claiming that Jeremy's responsible for what everybody else does to her with communicating when she's out there posting, ask me questions, I will tell you everything, get to know me. Okay, you understand those things don't work together, okay? That's an oxymoron. There's other words. You think of the words, how it does. It's oil and water. They don't mix, okay? Not only that, remember, she's walking into court and saying, I want to petition on Jeremy. And then in court, she's saying, I plead the fifth because I will get in trouble if I don't. So in the legal system, particularly within this court system, you cannot bring a case in court and then plead the fifth. You don't get your cake and eat it too. You either get to bring the case, and then you have to tell everything, or you plead the fifth and the case goes away. We've already filed a motion to make the entire case go away because you cannot plead the fifth. So I think what's literally going to happen is the appellate court's going to remove the Thomases. He's going to have to deal with some other issues within his professional career, which is frankly very unprofessional. And then it's going to go to another judge, most likely I forget how to say his name now. Monte, what's the first part of his name? I forget. Bustamante. I think it's going to go to Judge Bustamante in Levy County. And I think Bustamante has enough common sense, has enough knowledge to know this petition, she has claimed, carries no weight whatsoever in the state of Florida or anywhere else. It'll be dismissed and thrown out. William wants to know, hey, Jeremy, I'm thinking about starting a frog rescue. Literally, he says, I'm moving to Florida to start a frog rescue. Any property near you for sale? Thought you might help me out. Maybe something a little close to Tube Town? And he says, sorry, I just had to do it. I love watching your channel. Good luck ahead. William, I've never been in love with frogs like aladeros, but there's nothing wrong with frogs. I actually like the whole FROG, which many know that means fully relying on God. So the whole frog metaphor is a very good metaphor. I think you could do a lot of things with rescuing frogs or with the theme of frogs. I just don't know many frogs that need to be rescued. Now, maybe Kermit when Miss Piggy is going off on him. I mean, you probably could rescue Kermit. Who's he got to help him right now? The chef. You've got the Swedish chef, you've got Fozzie Bear, Gonzo. You think they're going to help him from Miss Piggy? She's a ninja. She's mean. And so somebody probably should rescue Kermit. But other than that, I don't think we actually need a frog rescue. But I hear that there is a new turtle rescue, a real one, coming to Otter Creek. Now, there have been those who run fake rescues, fraudulent rescues to scam and con, allegedly, in my own opinion, and maybe others as well, that they have said, Otter Creek doesn't need a baseball team. And my response has been, Otter Creek doesn't need a turtle rescue. And now I beg to differ with myself. As I grow, I change. And so I've changed my opinion on this whole turtle tortoise rescue. It is now very, very evident to me and many around the planet that the turtles and tortoises, and I dare say dogs and other animals, need rescued in Otter Creek. And therefore, I stand by my words and my commitment to make sure that not only will there be an Otter Freaks baseball team in the future, but there will be a real, 100% legitimate, not scamming, not conning, turtle rescue, where every frog will be welcome as well, especially if Kermit brings his banjo and sings Wild Thing. Glad for Music has a question as well, and for those who haven't looked up Kermit the Frog Unpig singing Wild Thing yet, it's Wild Thing, bing, ding, bong, ding, you make my heart sing. And then animals like, plug it! It's amazing. I love the song. Okay, so it just made me think of it because it's Glad for Music here. So Glad for Music has questions about tax liens as well. Since they haven't paid their property taxes, which Glad for Music, to date, they have paid the property taxes. Now, I'm not saying it's their money. It very well could have been somebody else's money. I don't care whose money pays it. What I care is the money gets paid towards the property taxes, less money that goes to the lawyers, less money that goes to the courts. The property is paid off. Once it's seized, now there's no issues for the federal government when it goes up for auction to pay sanctions. Okay, that's what I care about. And can you pay them and take control of that property? So we've kind of touched base on that already. I could have paid them, and then they would have had to pay me plus interest. But why would I put any of my money towards that? My money is going towards my lawyers. You see the difference here, right? I want their money to go towards anything and everything, prepping it. I would love it if the Jeep was paid off, the Gladiator, because I believe, in my opinion, I believe I will receive that Jeep. I would love it if the camper was paid off. I want the money to go towards taxes, the camper, the Jeep, because all of these assets are going to be seized in a federal government case if I win. And I realize there is that 50-50 if I win, but I really don't think it's 50-50. I think it's 99.999% compared to 0.001%. And the 99.999% is I win. It's very clear. It's a as a matter of fact, the judge has already said that this case is very simple based on its merits and what he's seen already, because they asked for an attorney to be represented, and the judge went, this is so simple, it's ridiculous. Absolutely not. They haven't even heard the case yet, and they can see that she's guilty. Again, my opinion, I'm saying that allegedly. And then Glad for Music says, or does it have to be unpaid for several years? It would be humorous to have them evicted. So the reality is when you pay a tax lien, you have to evict somebody if they're on that property. An eviction can take a certain amount of time as well. Typically here in Ohio, if I have to evict, which I've had to do, I think I had to do one within the past year, it can take 2 months, sometimes a little bit quicker, and sometimes a little bit longer. But I don't want to have to deal with all that extra stuff. What I want is to go into court, a decision is made, and then there's sanctions to be paid. Therefore, government comes in, seizes it, it goes up for auction, all the money then comes to me, and then I own everything. And what I have paid so far and what I will continue to pay in legal fees will never ever be able to get out of the property, the Gladiator, the camper, or any other bits of garbage. And there is a lot of it on that turd purgatory. Phil Nicholas says, hey, how'd that go with getting legal fees for the contempt of court case? And he says, did you ever end up winning attorney fees for contempt of court charges? So in the actual documents, I've talked to my attorney about this, so I kind of touched base on this in the documents, and I've talked to my attorney afterwards about this. So my attorney here in Ohio was under the impression that when he verbally stated, hey, this is what my hours are, 10 hours on this, we're filing for attorney fees, which he did, he filed for attorney fees, that was substantial enough for the judge to actually make a decision. And within her decision for the contempt of court, where she found Crook and LIEnette both guilty, she makes the distinction that there's no attorney fees granted, which she would have, she very much so would have, because they were in contempt of court, because he didn't file the correct paperwork. So since then, since we actually have the finalized motion or order from the judge, it's not a motion, it's an order, he is going to head and submitting that supplemental information. And he is also submitting for this next round in contempt of court, where we are asking them to be mandated to be here in Ohio, which I know a lot of people are going to go, okay, so the judge mandates them to actually show in person in Ohio. How's that going to work with the child, with the life threatening? So they're both going to have to be in the courthouse. Where's the child going to be? Well, that's not my problem, and that's not the court's problem. That's LIEnette CROOK's problem. Casey Lee wants to know, can you sue Levy County for the temporary injunction? In other words, if this temporary injunction isn't legitimate, if what the judge has done to you, Jeremy, taking away your legal access to your property on a public road, taking away your Second Amendment rights, taking away so many other of your amendment rights, can you sue? Keep in mind, within our court system, there are benefits to our court system and there are flaws to our court system. And you've seen many of the flaws just here in Florida. Whereas in Ohio, everything is streamlined, it's running the way that it should. In Florida, it's a mess. And so, particularly Judge Craig Thomas's is a mess. So within our court system, you can sue anybody for anything. You literally can stub your toe and go, you know what? This guy over in Cape Town, South Africa, who I've never met before, I'm going to sue him. Except he's in another country, so that wouldn't make sense. Of course, you understand the whole lawsuit wouldn't make sense. Because to sue normal people want, number one, a lawyer to represent them, because that's the smartest thing to do. So what lawyer is going to go, oh yeah, I'll take on this case, you stubbed your toe? Going to be hard-pressed to find a lawyer to actually say, yeah, I want a part of that. Which is one of the things LIEnette keeps shouting out to the planet. No lawyer will touch this. Well, no lawyer wants to touch her. Has nothing to do with this. Has everything to do with her. She's mentally unhinged. She's psychotic. She's insane. All my personal opinions of her. And others, I understand there are those that agree with me. A lawyer isn't going to take this on going, this is a lost cause, this is ridiculous. Except for Silver Scam. He'll take your $7,000, not knowing what he walked himself into in the first place. And then, not only do you have to find a lawyer to say, yeah, I want part of this, but if you're as dumb as LIEnette CROOK, you're going to go, well, I'm going to represent myself. A lawyer won't touch this, therefore I'll represent myself. Well, we should probably say they incriminate themselves constantly. And the funny thing is that their circle of supporters constantly incriminate them further and further as well. So the reality is you have to have a judge who says this is a legitimate suit as well. So if you're going to sue, you got to have a lawyer that's going to represent you. If you're dumb enough to represent yourself, now you got to have a judge that says this is a legitimate suit. And as I said previously, a new judge, Bustamante, is probably going to see this petition for an injunction. And just like Craig DeThomasis did, I believe 4 times before, threw it out and said there is no evidence for this. Why he finally gave her the hearing, we have no idea, because he denied her 4 times before. And I guarantee you, now, I guess I couldn't guarantee it, but my suspicion is Craig DeThomasis, he wishes he would have denied it this last time as well. Mr. Kipps, KPS, I sound like the Matrix now. Mr. Kipps, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kipps. I'm guessing Kipps, although I feel like I'm throwing an I in there and it's not. Mr. KPS wants to know, 2205, can the higher courts make Judge Grudge pay any of your legal fees? It was he who LIEnette carried on and let the hearing stretch out. And so I agree with you. There's no doubt whatsoever Judge Craig DeThomasis has cost me not just thousands, tens of thousands. And we're already at 155,000 with no end in sight. And it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars out of my pocket. And so there are those that go, wait, Jeremy, you said you make no money. I don't make any money. And then there are people who complain, how in the world could you pay $155,000 but you make no money? I don't get a paycheck. Other employees get paid. I rather have help than get paid. The business pays for the legal fees. I don't find it funny though, because it hurts the rest of the business. It literally takes money away from those who I'm trying to take care of as well, with a responsibility to do such. So one of my prayers is that God would bless me so that I can bless others around me. And I've shared this in the past as well, that one of the most annoying things about being successful is people will literally beg you for money for everything. Now, I'm going to flip that, okay? When I get 100 requests a day for me to pay for people's homes, their vehicles, their bills, it just goes on and on and on. It is exhausting and it is draining. Now, flip side of that is, I pray that God blesses me so that I can be a blessing to others. In my sphere of influence, you see the difference there? When I have no relationship with all of these 100 requests that come in every single day, and it's just begging, right? There's no symbiotic relationship where we're all benefiting together. And for example, people could go, okay, well, Jeremy, you right now have a fundraiser for your legal fees. Yeah, I do. And there is a symbiotic relationship that exists and benefits everybody. I'm fighting for the planet now, not the entire planet, the United States of America and its providences, for their legal rights, their First Amendment right, the freedom of speech. Not only that, I also provide entertainment on a daily basis. Now, some people love that entertainment. Some people love to hate that entertainment. But there's an exchange that happens. Now, when there's somebody from the outside that I have no exchange with whatsoever, and they're just begging, that becomes an annoyance. The other end of it is when Christian and patients meet me for the first time and they want to rent an apartment and they say, here's our security deposit, here's our first month's rent, and then COVID happens and I tell all of my tenants, hey, you don't have to pay rent, just come to the warehouse and work it off. And Christian and patients come to the warehouse every day and I go, sweep the floor. And they go, okay, we're done. What do you want next? And I go, sweep the floor. And they look at me perplexed. And I go, just do it. Sweep the floor. I'm like, we already did. I know you did. Just sweep the floor. And then they come back to me and they go, all right, it's all done. What do you want done next? And I go, sweep the floor. And they're like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm making sure you don't have to pay me rent. I don't care how many times you sweep the floor. Just sweep it and be here and be present so that you don't have to pay rent, and I will deduct that. You see, there's a benefit for them, a benefit for me. The benefit for them is now they work full time. Once COVID ends, they go, hey, we rather work for you sweeping the floor than go back to our 9-to-5 jobs. And I go, I'd rather have you working for me sweeping the floor than you go back to your 9-to-5 jobs. And then I have an opportunity for somebody in my sphere of influence to invest in as they invest in me, and my businesses grow because of them and they can grow because of me. That's where I love to give. People in my sphere of influence and people that I care about, where I pray, God bless me so all those around me can be blessed as well. Not all of those on the fringe that I've never met before, those around me, that they can grow, they can prosper, and we can all grow together because a rising tide pushes us all up together. Now let's get to the point of, can Judge Crudge, can he be held liable? Well, unfortunately, he has judicial immunity. In other words, even though he's done very wrong things, he's free and clear of it. Our government, and this is a major issue, our government says he's not guilty. You can't find him guilty. Now, that is not okay, in my opinion. And that needs to be abolished, in my opinion. Now, there are some people that go, no. You have to have this immunity for certain people, whether it be government officials, such as Russ the Sus. Oh, he's got immunity because he's a government official. Therefore, anything he does, well, there are things that Russ the Sus has done that he can be held liable for and he can go to jail for. And Craig DeThomas's has judicial immunity, which is not okay because he's done so many wrong things. And how many lives has he hurt? Not of just mine. How many other lives has he hurt that he should be held responsible for? But our government right now says, sorry, he made a mistake. Doesn't matter though. If I make a mistake, guess what happens? I go to jail. Craig DeThomas's makes a mistake. What happens to him? Nothing. Now, there are processes and procedures, judicial reviews, and there are other things that can come into play, okay? But the fact of attempting to make him pay my legal fees, which he incurred tens of thousands of dollars in them, letting LIEnette ramble around about nothing, acting as her lawyer, 5 different hearings now, him not recusing himself until he denied 3 motions to recuse himself, writ of prohibition to remove himself. All of this costing me tons of money. The writ of prohibition in itself cost me, for it to be drafted by my legal team, cost me anywhere, I don't know the exact amount, but what I've seen in the legal bills, anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 for that document. And that's paying $385 an hour. Okay, so you understand, you're paying a person $385 an hour to draft a almost 100-page document, which is an extremely costly document, but extremely powerful document that shares the proof with the appellate courts, which is why the appellate courts are now saying, Judge Craig Thomas, you ain't going to say a word. Who can be held liable, though? Well, all of my rights have been infringed upon by the state of Florida. In writing, the state attorney told the Levy County deputies to not enforce the civil protection orders out of Ohio, which is illegal, both state law and federal law. The state ultimately will be held responsible. Now, what does that look like? Well, frankly, that looks like every resident of the state of Florida, because where's that money going to come from? It's going to come from the tax base. And so the tax base, who did not vote Craig DeThomas in as judge, he was appointed by DeSantis, is now going to have to pay for what Craig DeThomas has done illegally, immorally, incorrectly to me in my case, not to mention the state attorney in Levy County, not to mention the Levy County deputies and the office, all these things. Every resident in Florida is now going to be held responsible for what they did financially. And frankly, I don't think that's fair. Lori wants to know what happens if LIEnette doesn't pay her $50 fine and Crook doesn't pay her his $100 fine. Although you could say her. He does like that backside. I'm telling you, he's always talking about shoving stuff up there. Something's off about that. But that was funny. That was an unintended pun and dad joke right there when I said "but" right after I talked about Crook. Okay. All right. Get back into the zone here. If they don't pay the fines, Ohio can do a couple different things. Okay. Number one, Ohio can, and potentially will, but can actually change those fines into community service, which would have to be conducted here in the state of Ohio. So if they don't pay, they can be mandated for community service. Okay. What else can happen? Well, those fines can actually increase interest upon interest upon interest upon interest. That's the second thing. Now, if they're not paid, then what happens? Those get submitted to collection agencies. And then the collection agencies will actually put liens out and do different things. So in other words, it can be sold and then they can put a lien on their vehicle, put a lien on the camper, put a lien on the property since they didn't pay, and then they'll have to pay the collection agency for it. And that goes with insurance. That continues to compound and compound and compound and compound. So if they don't pay, eventually it will destroy them financially, which I already know you're going, well, how can you destroy somebody financially who already claims they're already destroyed financially? I'm guessing you can't do much more to destroy them financially, but liens would be important at that point, which I obviously don't want because I believe that all of their assets are going to belong to me, or the sale of their assets, whatever income comes from that, is going to be given to me in regards to settlement for what they've done to me. So I prefer no liens. The other thing the state of Ohio can do, can find them yet again in contempt of court and file more charges against them on their criminal record, which would be pretty dumb. For $150, somebody not to pay that. The other thing, and the highest thing, is there can be an actual warrant for their arrest. So the state of Ohio, even for $50 and $100, the state of Ohio will submit a warrant for their arrest if they don't pay in a timely fashion. And so there's other steps before it gets to that point, but it can get to that point. Now, the biggest thing is Florida won't extradite for that. And those who are going, what does extradite mean? All right, Ohio's all the way up here, Florida's all the way down here. Extradite means to pick up a person and take them to the place where they're guilty in Ohio. So Florida isn't going to stop them and for speeding, which she has a ton of speeding tickets, even though she told Judge Craig Thomas that she doesn't even have a ticket on her record. Well, we debunked that. And she get pulled over for speeding, and then they can go, oh, there's a warrant for your arrest out of Ohio. Well, if that happens in Florida, they don't even care. They're not going to go, oh, come on, you're being arrested now. We're going to extradite you, or we're going to take you to Ohio to be heard on trial. But as I've already shared, I can hire. Not a bodyguard, even though I need one quite a bit. You know, when you get a dad bod like this, sometimes you got to guard it. I'm just saying, this is a lot of work here. 47 years of work on this dad bod. Probably need a bodyguard every once in a while. But what you really want is a body hunter. And wait, is a body hunter? Why can't I think right now? Probably because I had 2 hours of sleep last night. Literally getting on a plane, flying back to Ohio, touching down, delays, and I'm still trying to keep my eyes open with 2 hours of sleep. So it would be body hunter. Yes, I think. I'm pretty sure. I think I already talked about this even. And then I could hire that person, which there are some great YouTubers out there that actually do this. And bounty hunter, not body. Why am I saying body? I need sleep. I seriously need sleep. Bounty hunter. So there are some awesome YouTube channels that actually do this. They're bounty hunters, and they're local to me in Ohio as well. And so I'm already in the process of working with a bounty hunter local in Ohio to go to Florida to film all of it to bring them back to Ohio. And so out of my pocket, and yet a collab video at the same time on YouTube, how does it get any better than that? Karen wants to know, what are you going to do if LIEnette shows up? Now, I know in context of this, Karen's talking about the town hall meetings. Well, I don't think LIEnette's going to show up at it more. I think she lied when she said that her lawyer told her to be there, and it's all on video, and it's all in the police report. She incriminated her lawyer. She stepped outside of a client and attorney privilege as well, so she broke that. And therefore, Silver Scam is going to be deposed. Silver Scam is going to be put on the stand. He is going to be actually questioned about all of this. And it's all recorded. This is how dumb she is. Literally, how dumb she is. She not only incriminates herself, her circle around her incriminates her, and then she throws others under the bus, such as Crook. Remember how many times? Remember the wildlife officer? Hey, you want to know what my real problem is? It's him. It's him. She throws anybody and everybody under the bus that she possibly can. And so that's a huge issue there. So the whole aspect of what if she shows up, I think she's now at the point, I mean, come on, if you were her lawyer and you found out watching What the Hales that she told everybody that you told her to be there and it was okay, not even the worst lawyers, and I don't think Silver Scam's a good lawyer at all. So I think he is one of the worst. And I'm entitled to that opinion. You realize this is my First Amendment right, that he's trying to take away from me. And yet, trying to protect Crook's First Amendment right and LIEnette's when she says she's not responsible for what he has done. So the whole part of her showing up, I gotta believe that Silver Scam is saying, don't you dare go anywhere near him, around him, to town hall. She can't be anywhere. You do realize that the state of Ohio held them both in contempt for even being at the sheriff's station. My very first day back in Florida, and they're in the sheriff's station parking lot. And what did Florida do about it? Nothing. They threw it out. That's odd. So Ohio says it's against the law and she's guilty and he's guilty. And Florida goes, nah, we ain't gonna do that. I think there's a major issue there when Ohio has said they're guilty and Florida's trying to throw this garbage out. That is beyond concerning in the court system. Twinkles wants to know, what about that time where LIEnette was driving past you in Walmart and she said, hey, what the hales? You're number one. But it was double fisted and it wasn't quite that finger. And so is she going to be held liable or accountable for what she did when she drove past myself and George in Walmart in Chiefland? And the answer is yes. That is part of the upcoming contempt of court. Now you're going, okay, well, what if she fights it? Listen, there's all kinds of communication. She is not allowed to communicate. We know for sure that there is verbal communication. We know there is nonverbal communication. As a matter of fact, there's an entire language of nonverbal communication. And universal symbol of you're number one with a finger up here and a finger up here is pretty evident to both myself, to George, my lawyer, and no doubt to the judge as well. Again, she will be held accountable. That will be stacked on in court with them being at the town hall an hour and a half breaking the order. RV There Yet Mama wants to know, if they don't show in Ohio, again, if the judge mandates and says they must be there for their contempt of court hearing, do you really think Levy County Sheriff is going to enforce the arrest warrant? No, I don't. As a matter of fact, I've lost most of my faith in the Levy County Deputies Department. And I think they're going to be held liable for the things that they have not done. Remember, there's two different kind of things. When I'm talking about inappropriate things, there's usually two areas. There are things that you did that were wrong, okay? And there are things that you should have done and you didn't do it, and therefore it's wrong. So inappropriate meaning wrong things. So Levy County Sheriff didn't do something that was wrong. It's the fact that they didn't do something and it was wrong. They were supposed to do something and it was wrong. And I don't think they're going to correct it anytime soon. Although I will give accolades to Lieutenant Anderson and Orion, because they're actually making sure something happens now. And they're the only ones that are actually pushing something on the supervisor level to all the other deputies to ensure something happens. But does that actually negate the liability that Levy County Sheriff has now created for themselves and the state of Florida? No, It doesn't negate what they already did not do, what they should have done. Now they're legally liable for it. It just means they're course correcting. Ivy Weekly says, Jeremy, if they're supposed to live separately, what in the world is the point of them even wanting to build a house? Keep in mind, both LIEnette and Crook have told a federal judge that I'm the reason they can't build a house. Now, I've already shown some screenshots and evidence that they never had the money to build a house in the first place. And they've lied about the house in Northport, this beautifully remodeled home, fully paid off, which was never paid off. There was a $60,000 loan. I have all the legal paperwork to prove it, back it all up in the courts as well. They came to Otter Creek to stalk me to get money. And if they have a case plan right now with Children's Services, which is what I believe is the case, okay? I believe, and again, I can't prove it. I don't have a copy of a case plan by Children's Services or Family and Children's Services, whatever they call it in Florida, I forget. But they have mandated the separation based on what LIEnette has posted. And yes, I have all the screenshots of it. So LIEnette's the one that says they have to live separately. So what's the point in building the house? Well, I don't know. There's a child who probably needs clean living, needs an actual space to live instead of in a shed that's illegal in the state of Florida. And frankly, a lot of other states, it's 100+ degrees right now in Florida. No air conditioning whatsoever. They're dumping gray water all over the ground from their washing machine. If they wash anything, who knows if they're even paying their water bill, because times are so tough, they can't even feed themselves, let alone the animals. So the point of building a house is, number one, it should be to care for your family. Number two, it should be to be legal within the law. But the fact is, it's never ever going to be built by them, in my opinion, because they refuse to work, because they want to continue to scam and con, and they're being called out on it, because the federal government is most likely going to come in and seize it all, and it will go up for auction, and then I will own it all. Or I will own what it's sold for.